very close to the moon was very impressive in many ways, but the moon is nothing compared to our home planet.
Before he passed, Michael Collins revealed what really happened during Apollo 11. And he had been protecting that truth for 50 years, not from embarrassment, not from modesty, from something far heavier. The knowledge that on the most celebrated day in human history, he had been given a set of instructions so terrible that NASA kept them classified for decades. Nixon had a eulogy pre-written, and Collins was quietly prepared to execute them alone. He orbited the moon, while Armstrong and Aldrin were on the surface.
Collins remained in the Apollo command module, orbiting the moon. Not the best seat on this mission, but not something he regretted.
And nobody, not the public, not the press, not the people cheering at Mission Control, knew what was sitting in his pocket. This is what he finally admitted before he died. The man who was left behind. Here's what the history books skip. Collins almost didn't make it to Apollo 11 at all. In 1968, he was removed from the prime crew of Apollo 8, the first manned mission to orbit the moon. After developing a cervical disc herniation, a serious spinal condition that required surgery and months of recovery, he watched from the ground as Frank Borman, Jim Lovell, and Bill Anders flew the mission he had trained for, with no certainty he would ever fly again. That injury didn't just sideline him, it haunted him. Every astronaut understood the math. The program wasn't infinite, the slots weren't unlimited, and the window for a moon mission was already narrowing. Collins spent that recovery period watching the program move without him, wondering if his moment had already passed. He got his chance when he was assigned to Apollo 11 as command module pilot, responsible for flying the spacecraft to and from the moon and maintaining Columbia in lunar orbit, while Armstrong and Aldrin descended to the surface. It was not the most celebrated assignment. The command module pilot would not walk on the moon, would not plant the flag, would not be the face on the front page, but it was arguably the most technically precise position on the crew, because if the lunar module failed, Collins had to attempt rescue. And if rescue was impossible, Collins had to make the decision no mission briefing document ever quite prepared a person for. He accepted the role. He trained for both outcomes. But what he didn't talk about publicly for 5 decades was what that second outcome actually required him to hold. And that is where this story really begins. If you want to understand what NASA never fully told the public about Apollo 11, stay with this video. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time, because this channel goes exactly where the official record doesn't. The weight of isolation. Apollo 11 launched on July 16, 1969, from Kennedy Space Center, watched by over 1 million people, and broadcast live worldwide. Collins later described the launch as surprisingly smooth, less violent than he had expected, though the raw power was undeniable. And then, almost suddenly, they were in the silence of space. 3 days later, they were in lunar orbit. On July 20th, Armstrong and Aldrin transferred into the lunar module Eagle, sealed the hatch, and began their descent toward the surface. And Collins was left alone. He circled the moon every 2 hours. 48 minutes of each orbit passed in complete radio silence. No Earth, no Armstrong, no Aldrin, no mission control. As Columbia slipped behind the moon, where no signal could penetrate, 48 minutes of knowing nothing. Every single pass. The conventional story treats this as peaceful, almost poetic, and Collins played along with that version for decades, talking in interviews about the beauty of the cratered surface below, the alien stillness, the sense of vast perspective.